jibber jab, bamboozle, nooka noozle, bippity bop, she called. You jibber jab, bamboozle, nooka noozle, bippity bop, she called. I mean, you keep on talking, but you don't know where to turn it.
I majored in Frisbee and beer, and I only passed one of those. I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute. You're watching Independent Thinking. Times are tight. My alma mater is looking on how to, well, raise some money, cut some money, find a way to educate the young, because CU's done that in the past, not that I remember. From the Independence Institute, from the Campus Accountability Project, glad to have you. Jessica Corry, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Now, when did you graduate from CU?
2001.
Oh my God, you're a newbie. So did that degree really help you out?
Yes,
to get everywhere you wanted to go?
I was a journalism major, and now I use that degree to put out press releases questioning CU's spending, so I'm sure they're very happy about it.
And from a great organization, Face the State, Kate Melvin, thank you for joining us. You're a student now at CU, right?
I am, yes.
What are you studying?
I study economics and political science.
At UCD?
Yep.
Now, it used to be called UCD. I went there for a couple of years.
Right.
Is it still called UCD?
Now it is the University of Colorado, Denver.
Oh, very nice.
We spent a lot of money taking the "at" out of that.
All right. Reason I wanted to get you here is I know that the state is going to be giving CU less. What's the shortfall that we have at CU this year?
It looks like it'll be about $14 million over the next 2 years.
That's nothing.
It's not a lot of cash when you consider this is, multi-billion-dollar institution.
Right. And what caught my eye was a report you did on facethestate.com, which said they're paying how much for your chancellor? I want to get this story right. I'll let you take it.
Right.
Who's your chancellor down at UCD?
The chancellor at the Denver campus is Roy Wilson. He's a doctor of ophthalmology by trade, and he was brought in to be the chancellor for the downtown campus.
And that includes the Health Science Center.
Right.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's in Denver and Aurora, so big school. And his salary, all told in 2009, could total up to $718,000 for the year.
So this guy's going to get sevenfold what the governor of the state of Colorado gets to run not the whole University of Colorado system, but just one of their 3 or 4 campuses.
Right, nearly twice what Bruce Benson, the president of the whole system, is making.
Nice work.
Not bad.
But still, now how does this compare? What does Bruce make? What do other chancellors make?
Bruce Benson, the president of the university, is making just under $400,000 per year. And
it's got to be tough. I don't know how you live on that.
It's a small budget, but I guess when we did the report at Face the State, part of what we discovered was a study released in the Wall Street Journal that said that Chancellor Wilson is the 6th highest paid chancellor in the country. But when you break it down on a per student basis, he's actually the top paid chancellor in the country.
This is beautiful. Let me see if I get this straight. So we're not talking Harvard, we're not talking Princeton, we're not talking Stanford, we're not talking Arapahoe Community College, which has a better football team than CU right now. But per student, per capita basically, nobody makes more than this guy.
That's right.
Is he worth it?
Part of how CU defended the salary of Chancellor Wilson was saying, well, it's a fair market-based competitive salary. That's assuming, of course, that he's in the private sector where, we rank salaries according to what the market is giving. So as far as I'm concerned, no, you have to pay the best to have the best run your institutions. There's no doubt. But when we're talking about over $700,000, #1 in the country to run this state school in Denver, I mean, really, is it worth it?
This is what I call either the superintendent gamut or the city manager gamut. And they say, we need to pay our city manager really well, but we need to go out and see what is competitive. And instead of going out to the private sector, they say, no, what we're going to do is we're going to survey like cities, in which case the staff finds the best cities and the right ways to do it and says, this is how we're going to pay people. And that's how, for instance, Cal Marcel at RTD is paid, what, $250,000 a year now. So the question is not what is he doing compared to all these others who use the exact same system, but can we find a qualified person to run CU Denver for under $700,000?
I think we can, and in CU's defense, CU does have one of the nation's top medical schools, and they wanted to attract competition. But the system we have here, both at private colleges and public colleges, is an artificially easy access to credit. When CU says we're going to raise tuition, as it has done more than 10% over the last 2 years, students say, okay, and the federal government and the state government to a lesser extent doles out the aid that they need. So what we have is students who are graduating from Colorado institutions with an average of more than $20,000 in debt. You tack on family loans, loans that parents take out, they're called plus loans, that's another $16,000. You tack on the average college graduate's credit card debt, another $3,000. You're already talking at or above $40,000 by the time a student gets their first job.
Let's see if I get these numbers right. So the debt, or excuse me, the shortfall right now is about $14 million. The university is going to have to scrabble and try to figure out how to cobble things together with $14 million less from the state.
That's right.
But over the last 2 years, you said tuition has gone up how much?
What's the exact percentage, Kate? I think it's...
Well, it varies based on undergraduate, graduate, out-of-state, in-state, but generally speaking, I'd say the average is 5 to 8% that tuition is increased.
Over the 2 years?
Correct.
Okay. And keep in mind, at the CU Medical School, out-of-state tuition is nearly $90,000 a year. CU is one of the most expensive medical schools in the country. So when we talk specifically about Wilson's salary and the students he's serving, these students are graduating with $400,000 in debt. It's a huge,
Your point
huge
being,
burden.
they're paying a lot for tuition. They're paying a lot for tuition. The university says they're hit for $14 million, and they're always broke. I mean, during Rep C, we did this because we needed money for higher education. My friend Hank Brown, a great guy who did a terrific job at CU, went up and said, if we don't pass this, we're going to, higher ed could end here in Colorado. We passed it, and still they don't have enough money because, just like we predicted, the money wasn't going to go to higher ed. How big is CU? Give me an idea of how much their budget has grown. I want people to understand this is not a meek little institution any longer.
By no means. I mean, like we said earlier, they have the 4 campuses, but budget-wise, only 3 years ago their budget was $1.9 billion. Last year it increased to $2.2 billion, and for this fiscal year they're looking at $2.9 billion.
So in other words, in just a couple of years, they've grown by a third.
Correct.
What business in America has grown by a third? And they're worried about $14 million out of almost $3 billion?
Right.
What we see is that CU has 14,000 employees, and over 2,000 of those make over $100,000, and that's just salary, not benefits or other incentive payments that could be tacked on.
Here's one of the problems on television, is when you use numbers, people grab the remote control. So let's do this one slowly.
One out of every 7 CU employees makes over $100,000.
And that's not health insurance, that's not retirement benefits, which is among the most lavish. It's not all the other benefits they have. They make one out of 6 makes $100 grand a year, and still they don't have enough money.
That's right, and the average salary increase last year for CU employees was 5%. And this is at a time when CU students are looking at 10% increases. So the books are being balanced over there on the backs of Colorado's working families.
Now, this is not a surprise to any of us, but one of the things that gets really frustrating in government is they're always broke. We never have enough money. We never have enough money. We're not doing enough for kids. We're not building enough buildings. I live in Boulder. I see the cranes all the time. I barely recognize this campus anymore.
It's a beautiful campus.
It's a beautiful
They've done a great job.
Yeah,
they have done a great job.
For an organization that has no money and can't build any buildings, they've built a lot of new buildings in the last few years. But they never have enough money, and yet they're paying their chancellor in just their smaller campus. This is not their flagship campus.
Right.
This is their smaller campus. The record highest amount, the highest amount in the country per capita, this one guy.
Right, and I mean what CU officials led by Benson are talking about doing is looking at not only tuition increases on students, but going back to the legislature and saying cut less or give us more, instead of taking a look at what's going on internally and what they're paying their employees. Why ask taxpayers for handouts when you could take a look at your budget like every other business is doing right now?